Happy 4th of July out there, everybody. I figured to fit the theme, we'd go with something obviously very American. And what could possibly be more American than crime? So today, we are going to talk about Felony. When I when I got this from Goodwill or something like that, it just looked like the most ridiculous movie. It has on its cover, top billed, Lance Henriksen and Leo Rossi. Witness the ultimate double cross. It sounds like it's not a bad tagline. It's a little straightforward, but okay. We see on the front both Lance Henriksen and Leo Rossi, and also another featured player in the movie Tons of Burning Cars. As I always do, let me read a little bit off the back of the box here. If you can't take the heat, don't commit the felony. We get that up here as a secondary tagline. I think that would have sold better on the front of the box, but I mean, I guess witness the ultimate double cross also works, even though there is no great double cross in the movie. It's really stupid. Anyway, let me get the synopsis here for you. 12 brave cops walk into a bloody ambush, and now the police are desperate for revenge. Lance Henriksen, the renegade CIA agent who set it up, will go to any length to eliminate the one witness who caught the grisly details on videotape. Maverick detective Leo Rossi wants justice, but everywhere he turns, he finds deceit and interference, especially from Joe Don Baker, a secret government operative who shoots first and asks questions later. A taut, suspense-filled action film, Felony exposes the game of double cross, uncovering arresting surprises at every turn. So I love also on the back here, they don't even go about mentioning the characters' names. Usually they do the character name, then in parentheses put the name of the actor who plays him, and sometimes even a couple of their other credits. Here, they just went straight for the actor. So in that tradition, most of the time for the description of this film, I'm just going to reference the actors' names, because who gives a shit about the character names? They didn't. So this was a New Line home video. This went straight to home video. I can't imagine why. Southern Star Studios and a David A. Pryor film. Now, we'll get to that in a second. But starring Jeffrey Combs, David Warner, Ashley Laurence, Leo Rossi, Charles Napier, and Lance Henriksen, and Joe Don Baker, obviously. DP'd by Don E. Fauntleroy and edited by Tony Malinowski. Executive produced by Patrick Gallagher and David A. Pryor, and produced by Robert Willoughby and Ted Pryor. There's a fly in here. So this movie stars a who's who of character actors from the 80s and 90s that you probably recognize immediately. Funny, though, that the top billed actors here are not the main characters of the movie in any way. So the movie really stars Jeffrey Combs, who we all know from movies like Reanimator and his role in The Frighteners. Great actor, at least in my opinion, or at least in those movies. I think he was pretty good. This one, not so much. Maybe that's why he didn't get top billing. But Lance Henriksen, we know from things like Alien and pretty much everything else. He's been in a lot of other bad movies, but he gets a lot of roles, and I mean, he's a real working actor, so good on him. And Leo Rossi, who we all know from Halloween 2, and kind of looking like the love child of Roy Orbison and Elvis, who was found dead in a lake. This movie, by the way, was written by David A. Pryor, who we know from making such movies as Deadly Prey, Deadliest Prey, Future Zone, a lot of stuff that was actually featured from the guys at Red Letter Media on, I think, Best of the Worst. Yeah, a lot of stuff was on Best of the Worst. So yeah, if you haven't watched those, definitely watch some of their episodes regarding that. And this is just another entry into the long catalog of shit movies that David Pryor was able to get produced. I guess because he had made so many, they kept giving him money. Seeing this, I can't imagine why, but I mean, that's Hollywood for you. So the movie starts off with generic B-roll of a city that's kind of unrecognizable to me, at least. And usually when you see like establishing shots of a city, we choose, or the people that are producing the movie usually choose shots of a city that are really easily recognizable. So for instance, if you're going into New York City, you probably would do a shot of the Empire State Building, the Chrysler Building, of course, the Statue of Liberty. These are all things that you probably want to show. People would immediately know it's New York. Let's say it's Chicago, you might shoot the Sears Tower, or the giant, I think it's the giant bean downtown, that big silver bean. I think that's in Chicago. I'm going to look stupid if it doesn't, but whatever, I'll leave it in, who cares. They're showing you some skyline shots of a city that I don't recognize at all. And I'm sure maybe the people who are from it do, but it's New Orleans. And if they had shown some shots of the French Quarter, or if they had shown some shots of Café du Mont or the church downtown or anything, you know, at street level, we would definitely recognize that this is New Orleans. Again, no right choices made, but that was probably the cheapest B-roll that they could possibly afford, or they went out and shot it, but I don't think they got a helicopter to shoot the city. That'd be too expensive unless he was really jacking the budget up. Who knows? Anyway, so cut to what looks like an episode of Cops being filmed.
Right now we're planning a raid on a house which we know is being used to traffic very large amounts of narcotics into the city.
And we come up on Jeffrey Combs with a dude next to him who looks like some kind of hippie war vet.
And that's wasn't that great?
Yeah, man, you were happening for real, dude.
He's wearing an old air cav or a cavalry uniform jacket from, I think, Vietnam. He might be a vet. He might just be a guy who got that from an army surplus store. We're not sure, but he definitely looks like a hippie. And they're filming these cops that are about to do a raid. And so there's some banter back and forth from the cops.
Hey, man, bring that camera over here. I'm the real star of this show. Just look at this pretty face. Check out this profile.
None of the cops speaking have Louisiana accents. Nobody seems to really don the proper accent, number one, or at all any kind of accent in this movie, which it might probably, I don't even know if it was filmed in Louisiana. Probably wasn't. I haven't looked that up. I don't care. A lot of these cops sound like they're practically from freaking Brooklyn and shit.
Shit, man. I'm the one who ought to be on television.
It's absolutely, it's so terrible. And I kind of love, I love the duality of the sort of somewhat buttoned down Combs with his hippie war vet guy, and they share some ridiculous cool dude banter. So as described on the back of the box, these cops go into this house to try to do a drug raid or a drug bust, and there's, what, maybe like 20 of them. There's a bunch.
Secure the back! Secure the back! Watch the rear! Hit that son of a...
The cops search this house. There's nobody in it, and they all kind of congregate in the front living room.
Sergeant!
Nothing.
Johnson!
Not a soul.
And we get an above shot from like an interior balcony above the living room. So the cameraman's standing there getting a shot from above. So these cops had thoroughly checked the house and there was nobody there. So what's about to happen makes no sense. Actor David Warner shows up on the second floor balcony.
I'm afraid that's not going to happen. Today just isn't your lucky day.
So they had already checked the house, including the second floor, nobody there, and somehow magically appears a guy on the second floor. Would he climb a fucking ladder or something? Was he hiding in the attic? Like, they checked everything, they said. Maybe they didn't check the attic, maybe they didn't check absolutely everything, so perhaps that's where he was hiding. No establishment of that. This dude just appears like a fucking magician on the upstairs balcony, and then he shoots everybody. And it's kind of ridiculous because if the cops were raiding this dude's house or somebody connected to this dude, why would you want all of the cops, 20 of them or so, murdered in your living room? Even if it wasn't you, everyone's going to suspect it's you first, and they're going to look into that. So, like, it doesn't seem practical, but that's what happens. So Combs and his cameraman catch everything, and they run out of the house. They're the only two to survive this whole thing somehow. I don't know how they managed it, but they're the only two. I think they were off to the side or something, to survive this giant gun battle. They run outside. They catch David Warner leaving the house. He gets in a van. They get a perfect shot of him.
Man, you get this?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So as they were catching video of David Warner in the van, they notice that he's holding some kind of detonator device, is what it seems like.
Detonator.
and they realize that the house is going to explode. So camera guy, very important to note, drops the camera.
5 seconds, move it.
Robbie? Gotta get the hell out of here!
Next to the house, rather than running with it. Obviously, to protect your own life, that's probably the best idea. The camera's only going to slow you down. But they drop the camera next to a house that completely explodes. %110% just blows off its foundation. Wait until that becomes important. Also, why, if they were planning to blow up the house anyway, did they bother to shoot the cops? Obviously, anybody from the forensics crew that's going to check out what happened here is going to notice that they were shot and that they were burned, especially if there's anything left of the corpses. And even if there isn't, there's going to notice that there's bullets left amongst the ashes, so they were obviously shot before the house was burned down. Why didn't the fucking dude in the van just blow up the house? Like, I mean, I guess he had to verify that all the cops were in the living room or something, but when they all came in the house, why didn't he just wait outside and blow it up? That would have been so much faster. And less effort, and less chance of being himself shot or caught on video, perhaps. I don't know. He would have kept, he could have just stayed in the van. I guess then the movie wouldn't have happened. So, like I said earlier, the rest of the plot of this movie then hinges on that videotape that was in the camera that was next to the house that exploded.
Gotta get the hell out of here!
Now, if we watch carefully in the video, the camera is placed right down next to the hedgerow, just under the window of the exploding house. I find it very hard to believe that that camera, much less the videotape inside, would still be intact after that explosion. The rest of the movie's plot hinges on Lance Henriksen getting this videotape because it implicates him and his rogue CIA band in this set of murders. At some point, David Warner takes out a grenade launcher and blows up 2 cop cars. I mean, this movie's got a lot of action, which of course is pretty fucking awesome and pretty goddamn American. But I don't know, they just did a lot of shit for absolutely no reason. We'll get into more of the car obsession that David A. Pryor seems to have in a few minutes here.
Names of those killed are being withheld at the present time. Wait, there's Chief Edwards. Chief Edwards, can you give us any more information on this terrible incident?
So now we meet Lance Henriksen, finally, who we now know is the main bad guy. And he's wearing a shirt that's so 90s, I'm surprised it didn't keep him permanently locked in that decade, like in a temporal lock or something, so he couldn't get out. Because that's how fucking 90s the shirt is that he's wearing.
Nice.
So Lance is pissed off that because all these cops died or something and this op went south, that a bunch of their CIA compatriots that are languishing away in a South American prison or something are going to die now because this all happened, and that David Warner couldn't just walk away from the situation, even though Lance is in charge and should have told him to walk away from the situation, and the dude seems to carry out orders throughout the rest of the film. Completely inconsistent. So what they're doing, in some sense, I think, it was really hard to make sense of it, but it seemed like the CIA agents were smuggling drugs, to sell drugs, to buy guns, to then buy off these South Americans that had their friend agents in prison, which is so convoluted. Why couldn't they just buy guns and give them guns, or just give them money? Like, I don't understand. Like, they're CIA. They could probably find other ways to get money other than smuggling drugs, but maybe that was just the easiest thing for them. I don't know. But why couldn't they just give them the drugs? Maybe they didn't want drugs. Maybe they wanted guns, but it's so fucking stupid. So now we get to Leo Rossi and his partner in this kind of broke-ass attempt to replicate the buddy cop feeling of Lethal Weapon. And his accent, again, is just so bad.
Here comes the bullshit.
He's kind of trying, and sometimes he's not.
Look, nobody knows nothing about no tape, all right? I'm sure Chief Edwards, he'll give you a statement when he's ready to, all right?
He looked like he just didn't give a shit, and it really comes through in his performance. It's kind of reminiscent of like Nicolas Cage's accent in Con Air, which was ludicrous. Right, Nick? So we get the two cops get the tape that was next to the blowed up house, and they go and take this tape and try to look at what's on it, and surprise, that shit is absolutely blank.
You got it?
Right here. All right, y'all. Showtime.
How the fuck is that possible, by the way, when... Oh, God, I don't know, man.
It's blank.
Leo Rossi and Charles Napier, by the way, is also doing absolutely no accent in this scene. You've known him from tons of movies. Again, this is a character actor's dream of a film. The boss is pissed off, who I think is played by the guy who played the hardware store owner from Roadhouse, if I'm not mistaken. They all talk about how they need to do better, even though, like, in this situation, how could they have done any better? I mean, they just took what they thought was the right tape. I don't know, man.
Be better. Be better, he says, like we got a lot to go on.
I guess we're supposed to believe that hippie army sound guy and camera guy had replaced the tape at some point, but we saw him run away from the house, and then he must have run back, changed the tapes, but left the camera instead of just taking the camera. What fucking sense does that make? So we get a cut to an assassin screwing a suppressor onto the end of a gun. But if you know anything about guns at all, or if you've seen any other movies even, and if you pay really close attention, there are a number of problems with an insert shot they do. So number one, suppressors on a firearm are screwed onto the outside of a barrel. That's just how they're designed. This one screws to the inside of the barrel. If that were to be how this, any gun were created, if you were to fire the gun without having the suppressor attached, all of the ballistic dust from the exploding cartridges would then clog up the threads at the end, so you wouldn't be able to screw on a suppressor. So that's why the suppressor threads are outside of a barrel, not inside. So that's no problem, number one. So number two, suppressors are much larger in real life. So if you've ever seen one, like a real one, you can Google it, take a look. They're huge because what they're supposed to do is trap the exploding gas, dust, and sound from a round going off. And to do that, they need to be of a respectable size so that it can collect all of that material and energy. So the one that he does for the particular size gun that he's using wouldn't do anything at all, much less for the fact that it's absolutely fake, but it would not be effective. That kind of suppressor might exist on something that was like 22 sized, like a small Beretta 22 handgun, but other than that, there's like nothing that would actually work for. So that's absolutely ridiculous. But number three, you can tell in the insert shot, when you really get close up, that it's a plastic gun, 100%. There's no question. So it's just the fakest piece of shit they could have possibly gotten for this movie. I think there's a lot of ways they could have done a lot better. And if they had a budget to put a movie together at all, that should have been one of the first things they checked off, is to have the weapons of their assassins look realistic, or it just kind of all takes you out of the film a bit too much. So the assassins are going into the hospital to kill Jeffrey Combs and to get the tape back, I guess. Maybe they think he has it in the hospital somehow, but they're going to kill him. And he's just in there because of indeterminate injuries. He really didn't seem to get too injured in that explosion.
Oh, this is great. I got a good-looking lady kicking me out of bed.
I'm sure it's not the first time.
And Combs is in the hospital there, busy hitting on one of the hot nurses in there, like one of the fucking Animaniacs. It's absolutely, it's so cliched to have the guy in the hospital hitting on the good-looking nurse.
Good morning. Laura. Wow, where'd they find you, on General Hospital?
What's that?
I just never thought I'd actually see a beautiful nurse in a hospital.
How often do you go to hospitals looking?
But luckily, she comes back for the stupidest reason in the world later on. So as the two killers are looking for Combs in the hospital, Blunder Cop 1 and 2 ended up finding him first and dragging him into a broom closet where they decide to interrogate him.
William Knight?
Yeah.
Detectives Kincaid and Duke, Metro.
Take over from here, honey.
Hey, you guys. Laura, what's your phone number?
555-8856.
555-8856. You guys got a piece of paper, a pencil? Come on, help me out.
This ain't the dating game, Bubba.
Oh, come on!
There are a couple quick cuts where it seems like the editor was trying to build some suspense as Combs leaves the hospital in a wheelchair. You have to. That's always the trope in movies, and it's actually true in real life. I believe it's for insurance reasons or some shit. They make you leave the hospital in a wheelchair, and I guess it's so nothing bad happens to you on the way out, because then you could hold them responsible, right? So Combs is leaving in a wheelchair. You think he's going to get caught, but he gets intercepted by the cops, and they bring him to this storage closet, and they start interrogating him. So the killers, who are dressed like doctors at this point, bust into Combs' old room and already have their guns drawn, like they're going to start shooting. Meanwhile, like, you might want to close the door or do something a little bit more discreet, or at least wait until you're in the room to draw the guns, but they come in ready to go, which seems very impractical if you're a professional assassin. That seems very sloppy. So Hot Nurse from earlier comes in and asks the two guys what they're doing, and they don't turn.
Can I help you, doctors?
Yes, we're looking for Mr. William Knight.
Oh, he just left with 2 police officers.
Police officers?
She's behind them, so the camera is, looking at the front of the two guys, and the door frame is behind them. Hot Nurse comes into the door frame and asks them, and I'm sorry I'm not giving the woman more agency than Hot Nurse. I don't know her name, and I don't know her character name. That's very terrible of me. She comes into door frame and asks them what they're doing. Meanwhile, they don't even turn around to look at her. And I think the one dude's still holding his gun, which would be suspicious. If I was the nurse, I'd be like, okay, doctor, why aren't you at least turning to talk to me? And there's just a little bit of a notion that the director wanted to show that she knew something was up, but she doesn't do anything about it. And then the two assassins walk right by the closet where Combs is getting interrogated, and then nothing happens from that. That's it for that. And then we just watch the rest of a funny interrogation scene between Louis Rossi, Charles Napier, and Jeffrey Combs.
But let me tell you something, stud. If that's the case, and that tape ends up in somebody else's hands before it ends up in my hands, whatever you got for it ain't gonna be worth it. I'll make sure of that personally.
Wait a minute. Is that a threat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's my number.
Which is pretty stupid. And then Combs is like, why the hell am I still sitting in this chair?
The hell am I doing?
I'm going to get the hell out of here. I don't really have any answers. I don't have the tape. Fuck you, bye. Actually, by this point in the film, I still thought the movie might be about Leo Rossi, because after this, it keeps following Combs. But up until this point, I was still, because he, again, top billed and on the front of the cover, I was still like, is this about him? Like, are we going to keep following him? But no, we continue to follow the Combs character. And I think they might have even been going for like a discount Riggs look, like a Lethal Weapon-y look with that plaid shirt and the white shirt underneath and the hair. I think they were trying to rip off Lethal Weapon a little bit, but I can't prove it. So Combs leaves the hospital and grabs a cab, and he starts driving away. Meanwhile, the two assassins somehow appear out of nowhere as Combs is driving away in the cab. He's obviously in the back seat. These two guys are in another car or a van or something, and they start shooting at Jeffrey Combs. Now, there was no, like, establishment that these two saw Combs leave the hospital. Had they had some kind of, like, minor establishing shot where they just showed, from the level of the car's cabin that the two guys are sitting in the front of the car, and, shot of them, hey, he's leaving the hospital. Cut to, shot of Combs walking out of the hospital. Then cut to Combs walking down the street. That would have been all we needed to know that those guys knew that he left the hospital, but they did not establish that. So these guys just appear out of nowhere. How did they know where he was? We just have to assume that they saw him leave the hospital. But if they just left thinking he was gone and walked by that broom closet, how the fuck did they know he was still even there? You'd think that they would have just left. All they really would have needed to do was show that little shot of him being, in that car or walking to his car and them being in their car. No, they didn't do it. So anyway, Combs is now getting shot at by these two dudes. Meanwhile, the cabbie does not fucking react to this at all.
Jesus Christ!
He doesn't react at all. Combs, meanwhile, knows he's getting shot at, and there's obviously gunshots going off. The cabbie's not like wearing headphones or anything. And he's just driving along, do. Meanwhile, he catches this hot slug right in the fucking neck and starts like veering off the road. And like he didn't, I don't know, if you're in a car, you're definitely hearing not only the gunshots go off, but the bullets hit your car and the man's distress in your back seat. So you'd probably be a little bit alarmed, but this cabbie just doesn't hear. Maybe he's deaf, doesn't hear it, and then gets shot in his neck. So that was that. And this car goes rolling down the street because there's nobody driving it anymore. Then cut to a shot on, like, maybe pushed back from the sidewalk a bit, of a car in the foreground in frame. And we see this car roll on an empty street, but there was a car in front of it in foreground, so you know that there was a ramp behind that foreground car blocking the ramp so that the car could do a flip off of it. Because there was nothing that it could have flipped on. There's no reason it would have rolled in the street like that at all. I mean, getting shot in the neck doesn't automatically roll your car. It's not how physics works. So now Combs gets out of the car and runs down the street. And instead of like running into a storefront or some other place to hide, because these guys are, you know, behind him, but not so close that if he did that, they'd be able to tell that he did it. He just runs down the street and turns corner into an obviously empty alley that's a dead end that you can see. It's not like you had to run down the alley to see. It was an obvious dead end alley that you could see from the street, and he chooses to run down there. Great choice. It's the equivalent of when kids in a Jason or a Halloween movie run upstairs, you know. Great choice, kids. Now, for some reason, this alley, of all things, has in it scaffolding. So he starts climbing the scaffolding like that's going to get him out of the situation. Again, like those shitty horror films. And the two dudes just start shooting at him. I think they hit him in his arm, too. And for some weird reason, the assassin does this move where he kind of like grabs the gun up here from the butt around the back of the hand and just like kind of like racks a round out, which is not anything you would ever do. And the slide doesn't go far enough to get a bullet out. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen. You'd never handle a gun like that. It wouldn't work right. Maybe John Wick could do it, but this asshole could barely like choose the right suppressor for his fake gun. So like, drove me nuts. I couldn't believe it. You just hold the gun in one hand, pull the slide back with the other, and eject the old spent round. But you don't have to do that, because when you shoot the gun, it automatically ejects the round and puts a new round in the chamber. So I don't know what asshole directed this particular scene. Was probably Pryor. He probably thought it looked cool, but it made no fucking sense, especially if you know anything about guns, which is probably going to be a lot of the people that go to watch your action film. And then, out of nowhere, he falls to the ground. You think he's going to die, and those two dudes get shot. Surprise. They're dead. But who did this? None other than Jodan Baker.
Well, never cared much for you boys anyhow.
Who you know from more films than I could possibly list, so I'll just let you look it up. But he's another fantastic character actor from the 80s and 90s. He's passed now, but he was great in a lot of stuff. This, not so much. He does bring his classic charm. He kind of acts the same way in a lot of films, so I guess he doesn't do a bad job. But he's just in a bad movie, so there's nothing he could have done to really resurrect it or do anything to change that. He kind of breaks down, hey, come with me, I'll save you. So Combs runs with Jodan Baker. So now both Combs and we, the audience, are very confused at this point as to what the hell exactly is going on. And Here entered Joan Don Baker, as we had said, to explain the plot to us.
Now, the guys in the CIA, unbeknownst to the CIA, they formed this little group. You follow me so far?
Yeah.
All right. Now, they're selling dope to make money, to buy weapons. Then they're going to trade these weapons for the release of a few of their fellow agents who are being held hostage in this, well, shall we say, this certain little Latin American country.
Yes, yes, Joe Don Baker is the device through which most of the exposition in this film is given to the audience. So, in what turns out to be a hilarious scene, as Combs gets explained all of this exposition by Joe Don, he decides, I gotta get the hell out of here. So he dives out of the fucking truck in the middle of this bridge that, by the way, has no other traffic on it.
Hey, come here. Where you going?
This looks like a bridge in the city or somewhere just outside of it, so there would definitely be cars, and it's a two-lane bridge. So there's one bridge has one lane, I guess the other bridge has the other lane, or maybe it's two lanes on two bridges, but either way, no other cars at all present. And there's no way to make your movie look like a movie than to shoot what should look like a populated area, have no other cars or extra cars in it. So that look, it was just ridiculous. You know, they closed the bridge for that shot and diverted traffic or something, but maybe they, I don't know, nobody else on this bridge. So Combs jumps the fuck out. John and Baker stops. He's like, hey man, get back in the car. And then he pulls his gun out. He's like, man, if you don't get in, I guess I have to shoot you into my car.
Hey, boy, what you doing? Get back in this truck. No. Hey, do what I tell you to, huh? It's for your own good. Now, come on.
Or he doesn't say that, but that's essentially what he says. And again, no sense. And as Combs is holding onto the side of the bridge for dear life, looking down, what happens to, or seems to be like maybe at max a 20-foot drop, maybe 30 feet tops. It does not. It looks like no taller than the tallest like cliff dive at your local like Mountain Creek in here in Jersey or something like that. You know, you go to a water park and they have a cliff dive section. It looks no taller than that. So something you could definitely jump from and not only survive, you couldn't really sustain injury unless you were really stupid. And this guy seems somewhat competent. So he jumps up on the thing and Joe Don Baker says, you know, get back in my truck. And Combs looks at him and goes, no!
No!
Like a little kid. It's one of the funniest things. So he doesn't get back in the truck. He obviously jumps off the bridge. And Joe Don Baker says, you know, I knew he was crazy. I knew he was that crazy or some shit like that. Even though, again, no stakes here. The bridge is like 15, 20 feet off the water. I don't know why he didn't get out and try to like shoot at him in the water or watch where he was going because he could have very easily. He doesn't do that. Remember, we're also supposed to be in Louisiana, so there's probably some kind of wildlife in that water you'd want to stay away from. So it might have been safer just to stay in the truck. I mean, I don't know. So now we cut to Combs' hippie partner in a park, and he's obviously a traitor because he's going to meet with the guy Cooper.
You got my money, dude?
Of course I have your money, Robert. Tape?
It's in the bag.
Played by David Warner. He goes to meet him in the park to give up the tape. And as soon as he does so, gets his money and tries to walk away.
Spend it well.
But then is immediately followed by the most conspicuous people I've ever seen.
That's it, take him.
Dudes in suits and a guy in a tracksuit, all staring at him. Obviously, if they didn't want to creep him out or give him a bad vibe, they did a really bad job because they obviously all look like agents. So, you know, he tries to run and ends up getting away after a long chase where cars flip and he shoots some dude in the chest. Like, so hippie dude is running away from these guys, shoots some guy driving a car in the street in the chest for like no reason. I don't know why that would have been a diversionary tactic because he's not associated with the agents. And this dude just crashes his car, flips it, it explodes like all the other cars in this movie. That's a huge theme. Cars flip and they explode. And then a couple times they don't. It's really unsatisfying. But anyway, so he kind of gets away and ends up getting to what looks like his stupid Ninja Turtles lair under some shitty like bridge. He goes to go inside, he goes to unlock the door, and this homeless dude comes up behind him.
Hey, buddy. Excuse me. Hey, help a guy out who's down on his luck, huh? Oh, please, buddy.
He's like, hey, could you spare some change? I'm around tough times. The hippie dude's like, yeah, I know where you've been, bro, no problem, here you go.
Sure, man. I've been in your space before.
God bless you.
And gives him the money, and then the hippie dude pulls out a suppressed gun and shoots hippie dude like 9 fucking times right in the stomach. Again, just like the house earlier. If your plan was to blow up the house, and if your plan was to kill this guy, why spook him out with 90 agents in the park and then let him get away and somehow murder someone else for no reason? Why would you let all of that shit happen when you could have just sent a covert homeless operative to his house and shot him there? Why waste the time, the effort, and now a person's life, an innocent person's life, over your pursuit of this dude and his tape? Why would you do that when you could have just had a homeless, creepy undercover agent kill him in the first place when he's obviously so suited to do the job? So he grabs the money briefcase that they gave to hippie dude and goes and hands it off directly to the agents anyway. So now back to Combs, who goes back to his house, which has been absolutely trashed. It's a trope that's in all of these movies. Whenever there's something like this going on, they always go back to their house to find it ripped apart. Jesus. They guess they were looking for the tape, couldn't find it, and as Combs is chilling at his house, somehow, some fucking how, hippie dude shows up to his house with like 9 shots in his chest.
These guys. Jesus Christ.
Like, and again, we established that his like underground lair was somewhere downtown, like in the very urban part of the city, and Combs' house is obviously in a like 4-bedroom suburban community on a residential, very like quiet wooded street. And somehow this dude, with all those gunshots, managed to get to the house. And they don't show him pulling up in a car. So did he fucking walk? Like he walked all that way with all those bullets in him? I mean, he would have been dead in 5 seconds, much less been able to get in a car and drive, or much less walk to this dude's fucking house. So that's absolutely the stupidest shit that I've ever seen in almost any movie. I don't know how he appeared there. Anyway, he dies, or he's starting to die, falls down on Combs' fucking front doorstep. Combs then drags him in.
Robbie! Hold on. Robbie! It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Come on. Come on. Come on, buddy. Hang in there. It's gonna be okay.
But not only does he drag him in, across the street, his neighbor happens to witness his friend fall down. Combs drag him into the house. And obviously he had blood all over him, so I guess this woman could see that from across the street. And, you know, Combs drags his buddy in the house. And as he's dying, we don't, as the audience, hear it, but the hippie dude starts whispering to Combs, and then...
What? No. Say it again. Yeah? Okay.
Dies.
Bobby? Bobby? Bobby?
Stupidest shit ever. So, not 2 fucking seconds later do we hear cop sirens as cops pull up. Meanwhile, downtown earlier, there were gunshots that happened in broad daylight, maybe about 6. Cops don't show up for minutes. But in the suburbs, as soon as this dude carries his friend who's bleeding from what that woman wouldn't have been able to tell from any, it could have been fucking bee stings for all she knew. She calls the cops on that and they show up in 2 goddamn seconds. Maybe that was some kind of commentary on the difference between how the suburbs and the inner city handle policing differently, and how the some of the lower class people in the city are underserved by the police, who then don't show up on time. Just say, "Oh fuck it, you know, this is the hood. We're not going to go show up." But in the suburbs, the white people get served immediately. I don't know. That could I don't know. That could have been David Pryor's point, or I don't think, considering the rest of this movie, he was anywhere near intelligent enough to put those kinds of themes and undertones in the film. So it's probably just bad fucking writing. And by the way, why doesn't Hippie Dude just go to a fucking hospital? I guess he knows he'd be killed anyway, so he doesn't. But that would have been the right place to go. If you had enough energy to get to your friend's house, you probably would have wanted to have gotten to a hospital to survive first. Not his priority. So anyway, these cops bust into the house. In another one of the funnier scenes in the movie, Combs jumps out the back window. And then runs in a zigzag pattern for absolutely no reason in the backyard. And I thought about it for a second, and I'm like, wait, the cops busted in, guns drawn, and he jumps out the window pretty much as they cross the threshold of the front door. I bet that somehow the director told Combs to fucking zigzag because the cops were supposed to be shooting, but in the editing room, they either didn't think about it, didn't realize it, or didn't care enough, or maybe they didn't have the resources to put gunshot sounds into that, because Combs is zigzagging. He could have just taken a straight beeline. We all know from math and from science that a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points, unless we're talking some real crazy shit. And this guy does a zigzag with there's people pursuing him. Like, that's the only thing, something you do when you're trying to evade being shot, and they don't have any gunshots. So it's fucking hilarious. It's absolute gold. So we cut to Combs, who never takes his long sleeve. And by the way, everybody's wearing long sleeves, and this is Louisiana, but Combs never takes off his long sleeve flannel for very long, sweating his damn ass off in the middle of that phone booth, and gives a call to try to find information of someone. And we find out that it's a hot nurse lady from earlier. He finds the information of this nurse and decides to go to her house. 2 guys come to confront Combs after he gets out of the phone booth, and neither of them say anything.
You guys don't move! I said don't move! Now, who are you guys? Who sent you? Tell me or I'll shoot you. I'll shoot you both.
And so Combs does the slowest, most it looks like when you're blocking out a scene, it looks like he was doing like the walkthrough, and like the kicks and the punches and everything are so slow and choreographed and so shitty. It's hilarious. So he kicks the gun out of the dude's hands. They get into a tussle, and Combs gets the gun, and he gets away. And he goes to the doctor's house. Even though he'd just gotten the phone number and the address, he could have rung her ahead of time, right? And explained everything, because he's calling from a payphone. He could have called to collect, and there's no way that anyone would have been able to know or trace that. So instead of doing that, he goes directly to her house, and rather than knocking on the door and explaining himself, which he could have very easily done, again, this woman has no stakes, no connection to any of this, he could have just knocked on the door and said, hey, I got shot, I'm being pursued, I need your help, I know you're a nurse, right? No, instead of that, he breaks into the fucking house. And then, as soon as the woman realizes he's in there, she starts accosting him with a tennis racket or something and beating him in his broken fucking arm, and then he has to explain himself. Which at this point, he hasn't exactly ingratiated himself with his host, so why would she believe him? It makes no sense. So he then has to go about explaining why not only he's not a robber or a creep or a weirdo, but what also happened to him, which would seem unbelievable at this point, considering he's just committed a felony. So this nurse decides to help Combs, which is both unrealistic and pretty stupid at this point, considering everything that's gone on. After that, we cut to Lance Henriksen in his evil lair bathroom, which looks pretty dope, by the way, from a 90s point of view at least.
Good man.
And he's getting a massage from his mistress as they both watch a porno. Of course, what else would somebody in the CIA be doing with his free time? And at this point then, because David Warner's also in the room and a couple other of the henchmen, we see Jodan Baker enter out of nowhere and find out that he already knows all these people. They're all agents.
Well, that's television for you, huh? 50 channels, not a damn thing worth watching. Crying shame, ain't it, Cooper? That ain't no way to greet a friend.
What the fuck are you doing here?
And he already knows them, knows what they're up to, and kind of just pops into sort of, I guess, in an old James Bond sort of way when he would come into a villain and be like, hey, I'm here to fuck you up, bro. I guess I just got to tell you, because that's what classy dudes do. So I'm here to say, I got you, but I don't got you right now, so I don't know why you'd let me leave alive, but see you later, peace. And that's basically what happens with Jodan Baker. He comes in and just be like, hey guys, haven't seen you in a while. I guess I'll catch you later. And he leaves, so that was a dumbass scene. In yet another ridiculous, stupid shit scene that would never actually happen, Combs calls his house at the exact moment that I guess he would somehow have known that now Leo Rossi and Charles Napier are there, and the rest of the cops, the dude from Roadhouse.
One of the cops saw Knight leave here with a gun.
Hey, Kincaid, it's for you.
Kincaid here.
Hey, Detective, sorry about the mess. Can you recommend a good maid service?
Where you at, boy?
I want to talk.
Are all there investigating the house. I don't know how he would have known that they would be there at that exact moment. It could have been earlier that they came to investigate it and have long left. Why would they stay there for that long? All it was two cops pursued a dude who jumped out a window and they found a dead body. They would have carted the dead body out, done a little bit of investigating, looked for some stuff around the house and then left. But they're still there. Somehow, Combs is like, oh yeah, of course they'll still be there. Calls his own house and is like, hey cops, I knew you'd be here. Doesn't say that. He should have. At least it would have been like, oh, at least he knew. But no, he's like, hey, what's up? You know, I know what's going on. I know I got the tape, everything. I'll meet you somewhere. Leo Rossi's like, no, bro, we don't do that shit. And he's like, well, man, if you don't want to do that, man, you're fucked. And Leo Rossi's like, okay, dude, all right, fine. Well, my boss is here, so I gotta act coy. I'm talking to my girlfriend. Bye, dude. Hung up. So they're gonna meet somewhere and shit to get this tape and find out the real story behind all this stupid garbage, I guess. And Rossi says to like throw his boss off of the phone call that was my girlfriend asking to pick up some butter.
That phone call something I should know about?
Just my girlfriend. Asking me to bring home some butter.
And that's just the end of the fucking conversation. The guy kind of like rolls his eyes at him. But wait, though, just a quick second. How would Leo Rossi's girlfriend have known what fucking house he was at? Did he tell his girlfriend that he was going to investigate this dead body from a case at this house? And then did he call his girlfriend from the house earlier and be like, yo, what's up? Just calling to see how you are. Here's the number here in case you need to reach me, because cell phones don't really exist yet, even though they kind of did. Or, you know, radios or something. He's like, hey, you know, call me at this house later if you need butter or something. Bye. That would have had to have been what would happen, because how the fuck else would his girlfriend have gotten the phone number? And how does the boss just be like, okay? It's pretty shitty police work. I mean, did a 10-year-old secretly write this fucking movie under a pseudonym or something? It's the stupidest shit. It's like no thought was given at all to it. So now Lance Henriksen walks in and tells the cops, hey man, like I'm investigating this shit now, bro, because this guy's fucking with us and he's trying to act like a real CIA agent at this point to try to get these cops, but Leo Rossi's having none of it.
This is Mr. Taft, Deputy Director, CIA Operations, Southern Hemisphere.
What's this all about?
Listen, I'm going to be real brief. I'm going to get right to the point. I'm not going to repeat myself, and there are no questions. We believe that the man responsible for last night's situation was an ex-operative. His name is Cooper.
He sniffs that out in like 2 seconds. He's like, yeah, well, you can kiss my ass.
You know what, Mr. CIA?
What?
You can kiss my ass.
Come on, dude.
In the worst accent ever. So basically, they're just there to say, like, hey, look, Lance Henriksen's double on top of this, and he's still real CIA on top of being crooked CIA, and he can try to control the police whenever he wants. But, you know, the real cop, Leo Rossi, he can sniff that from a mile away somehow. So earlier, Combs had said we're going to meet at a real family place, which ends up being a joke that we find out, only it pays off when they cut to a strip club. And obviously, a strip club's a real family place. Knee slapper. Sense of humor in this movie makes me want to kill myself. The only really funny thing about this movie is that somebody put up money to make it, and then people died to starvation somewhere else because the money didn't exist. So Leo Rossi and Charles Napier are there, and Leo Rossi gave him his word that he wouldn't bring him in. But Charles Napier slaps cuffs on Combs and he's like, I didn't give you my promise. So goddamn literal. I don't know. I don't understand. How did he not see that one coming? So as they're leaving the restaurant or strip club, family joint, whatever, we get a view of Combs and the guys through a sniper reticle.
You guys got it all wrong, you know. But you get it? These people are trying to kill me.
Which can only mean good things. And a shot rings out from that sniper and somehow doesn't hit anybody, but hits the cuffs holding Combs to the cops. And he dips. And the sniper keeps shooting at the cops, and so they're pinned down and Combs can get away. Meanwhile, right at that very second, somehow, Nurse Lady shows up.
Fly away, little pigeon. Fly away.
What are you doing here?
I followed you.
And picks up Combs and is like, oh, I was following you. But why? Why the fuck? Unless he told her to. That doesn't make any sense. She's just there because the plot needs her to be. That's the stupidest shit. And then, you know, the sniper stops and the cops are like, hey, we're getting shot at, but nothing's going to come of this. And Joe Don Baker, then we find out, is the sniper who casually walks from where he was shooting to his car. And then he, as he's getting in his car, David Warner, the other CIA guy who's working with Henriksen, shows up.
Been doing a little practice shooting?
Cooper, what the hell are you doing here? Taft let you off the leash for a little while?
He's like, bro, I hate you, and shoots him 9 times in the chest.
I've thought about this for a long time.
Wait, you gonna let me draw? I mean, don't you want to play by the rules?
Sure, I'll play by the rules.
And then goes away. And, yeah. Oh, God. So, at this point, dear viewer, if you were hoping or wondering if they were going to force a terrible love scene into this movie, well, be still your heart, because they do a good old tropey down by the fire cut. Where they start, I guess, sort of making out by a fireplace on the floor, which, I mean, uncomfortable, first of all, but kind of gross. Anyway, and instead of showing anything, they do one of those, you know, they're showing a shot of the man and woman and then tastefully cut away to the drapes. Or tastefully pan up to the drapes. It's you know, it's like 5th grade shit. And then we get a cut to the next morning where Combs is just laying on the couch. So I guess they boned on the floor, but then she left. Or wouldn't she end up going to the bed eventually or sleeping on the floor together? But he's just in his clothes, fully clothed, on the couch. So I don't know, man. No mind at all paid to continuity or the meaning of continuity or the importance of it throughout this entire endeavor. It's just, here's this scene, here's that scene. Like, things kind of are coming together somewhat, but it must have been saved in editing, or I don't know. None of these scenes make sense together at all. Cut back to Jodan Baker, who, surprise viewers, was not fucking dead. No, he wasn't dead. He had a vest on. Bulletproof vest. Meanwhile, since these people are all in CIA, you'd figure they'd know that people wear bulletproof vests, so why didn't David Warner shoot the cowboy Jodan Baker right in his face? But he's like, no, whatever. 9 shots in the chest, he's probably dead, and I'll just leave. Again, everybody in their job is, everybody in this movie is doing their job so good. And meanwhile, if Jodan, even wearing that vest, his insides would have been spaghetti after that, because it's like you're getting hit by a baseball bat in your chest. It definitely would have fucked up his insides a bit. He would have had some serious broken ribs or internal bleeding or something. So now Combs wakes up in Lance Henriksen's living room, and, you know, surprise, they got his woman too. They got nurse lady, and surprise, the whole time she was working with them.
Wake up.
The hell?
You all right? Laura's fine. She had a job to do, and she did it.
And I'm not even going to begin to try to unravel how fucking stupid that is. She was apparently, I don't know how she was working with them from the get-go. If she was working from the get-go, why didn't she kill him? Or why didn't she... she would have known who those 2 dudes were who showed up. Like, there's all sorts of stuff that becomes what happens if she was in on it from the get-go. I mean, then it would have made sense that he wouldn't have called her house first and just showed up, but he would have definitely not told her. He wouldn't have gone to her at all. He wouldn't have gone to her house to get help if he knew she was in on it. This shit makes no sense. Why the fuck? Why did you do this? Fucking motherfucker. So Combs gets shot, again, this time in his hand. Henriksen puts a pillow over his hand, blows a hole in it. And he's doing a pretty good job in these scenes in terms of, like, doing acting of being shot, I guess. So that's something to hold on to, I guess. So Henriksen sends this dude to get the tape. He's like, you know where it is. You better go get it for me. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill this girl. I'm going to kill everybody. And then he sends David Warner with Combs and the lady to go get the tape. Meanwhile, right after that, he calls over another dude, and he's like, hey, bro, after Warner gets the tape, shoot all 3 of them and come back to me with the tape, and you get extra cash.
Sunshine. I'm gonna make some real money.
It's about time.
I want you to follow them when they get the tape. Kill all 3 of them. Bring the tape back to me. Do it.
Cool, bro. Peace. So Combs finds the tape in this stupid warehouse, and then David Warner is like, hey, I gotta kill you now. And then almost immediately, that other dude shows up. He's like, I guess I'm gonna kill all of you now.
Here it is. It's unlabeled, but it's right where he said it would be. It's the same brand we used.
All right, let's go. Afraid it's not gonna work that way, Cooper. Drop the gun.
A double cross.
Clever boy. I'll take the tape.
And so Combs gets away. David Warner turns around to this other dude. He's like, oh, you're not going to kill me. I'm going to kill you. And he ends up killing him. And then he goes after Combs again. So just real quick, though, you'd think that they would work together now because he just found out he was going to get screwed over by his original boss. Instead, he goes and tries to shoot at Combs. Again, David Warner does. Which makes no sense. Like, if you found out you were getting screwed over by your boss and you were going to get killed, it'd probably be pretty hard to go above him at this point. Maybe you can try. Maybe that was his goal. Never stated. He just goes and tries to shoot Combs again. So I guess they're fulfilling somebody else's even higher plan. That's what that would have to mean, because other than that, there's no way he could re-ingratiate himself with somebody who just ordered his death. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Nothing in this movie makes any fucking sense. So now Dr. Nurse Lady has the tape, and everybody goes after Combs thinking he still has it. Which, wouldn't they send somebody after both of them? Because they probably would have thought about that, but I guess they didn't. But if she was working with the CIA too, wouldn't she have just given the tape to Cooper? Like the fucking David Warner guy? Again, that doesn't make any sense. He's still working for them even though he was just ordered to be killed. She was ordered to be killed, so she's keeping the tape. But she doesn't work. Oh, god damn. My brain. So then we get like one of the dullest car chases since Ballistic X versus Sever at just about like 20 miles an hour. So much like in the movie Speed, Combs goes down an obviously closed and still being constructed road and goes to jump his car from one section to the other, or at least goes to jump off of it, right?
Oh, shit.
And in the funniest thing I've ever seen, one of the funniest things, instead of actually jumping, it's the most anticlimactic thing ever. The car just kind of rolls off the edge, falls directly on its nose, and then falls onto its top. And you're like, please let the car explode. Please let the fucking car explode with him in it. Let's want this movie to stop. The car that fell off the bridge doesn't explode. Every other car in the movie explodes after minimal damage or after jumping or flipping off of something non-existent or behind something else and then explodes. This car, which by all rights should explode, doesn't. Combs jumps on one of the CIA dude's cars and they're just going for like a real casual, slow drive. Meanwhile, David Warner shows up and shoots the driver, the CIA driver of the other car, instead of Combs, who's on the windshield, who's the guy he's after the whole time. Doesn't make any sense at all. And then the car that Combs is attached to drives into a storefront that's a mattress store and flies off of a car onto a mattress. And then they kind of in frame have this like extra firm sign that Combs sees and then has a good hearty chuckle to himself. About how lucky and funny that shit is. Hey Nick, can you believe this shit? And the car doesn't explode, which was the ultimate saddest part of that whole thing. Fuck you, movie. So we cut to Lance Henriksen having a dinner by candlelight that's so dark you can barely see his food.
Get it, man.
That's another great trope in film. I don't know how often any of you try to have tried to have dinner by candlelight, but you need some kind of other ambient light in the room. You should have candles lit, but also have other lights so you can actually see what the fuck you're eating, because they definitely can't. So now Combs, Joe Baker, Leo Rossi, Dr. Lady, and Charles Napier are all on the same team working together, and they go, Lance Henriksen's like, hey, come over, we'll have some fucking gumbo or something. They call him at his house, and they're like, I guess we're all going to meet up because we got to do something about all this stupid shit that's been going on in this movie. We've got to end this at some point, right? And at this point, I mean, I think they established it a little bit earlier, but it wasn't done well enough for anybody to notice, and I only connected it at this point when they actually made it very explicit that Dr. Lady's brother was in the CIA with Lance Henriksen and was one of the people who was captured in South America and is at risk of dying if this drug deal that didn't get the guns doesn't go through. Oh, Jesus Christ. So we're at this like giant stadium where all this is revealed. It's pretty well lit, you know what I mean? Like you can see as an audience member everything around them pretty well.
How's the hand? You know, I don't want to blow smoke up your ass, but you're really a resourceful man. I never thought you'd make it this far.
I'm flattered.
But another here fun trope, you hear like somebody call out now as everybody's all there, and Charles Napier gets cut to as he's throwing up the lights, which make this giant like jung jung sound every time they shut on lights. It makes a huge noise.
What are you doing, calling me a cab?
Smile.
Which is really stupid, but they have to add some sort of sound effect, I guess, or it's kind of anticlimactic. As the lights all come on, we see that just out of view of all these people, which really was only maybe 20 or 30 yards away, there are maybe 50 fucking journalists and other cops, like a cadre of police officers.
He's pulled one on us, baby.
What's going on?
Oh, keep the guns down! Keep them down!
Down, hang by you.
But like, honestly, the lighting in that scene was such that if all of those people had been there, there would have been no problem seeing them. There would have been no darkness in that area in which they could properly hide without being seen, especially from 20 yards away. So it's the stupidest shit that those lights are flipped on, and then everybody's like, oh, well, I guess we're caught. Lance Henriksen's character is very cavalier about all this. He's like, bro, I'm just going to get away with this. Don't worry about it. And then out of nowhere, David Warner up in the stands, I guess he was also under the cover of complete darkness and wasn't seen while these lights were off, comes out with a M16 and shoots Lance Henriksen in the chest and kills him.
Mr. Taft!
And then Combs pulls out a revolver from somewhere and shoots David Warner. And that's it. And then, you know, Combs and Dr. Lady just kind of walk off, or Nurse Lady, Combs and Nurse Lady just kind of walk off from that scene, not having been questioned or anything.
You surprised me, man.
How did I do that?
Rushing over to see how Taft was?
They just walk away, even though, like, they'd have to do something with the cops. Like, they don't get to just shoot somebody and walk away. I don't know. Jesus Christ. And so now Combs and Nurse Lady are walking out of this building, and they're dressed like they're going to a P. Diddy white party. They're in all white.
No, hold on there, partner.
And then Joe Don Baker comes out, and they're all joking around like, haha, guess it's cool, we all survived this. You're a pretty crazy crack shot guy, ha. Hey, by the way, Combs, I found this. You dropped your badge the other day.
Oh, hot shot. Come here a second. Thought you might want this back before you leave. Found it the other night in the field. Nice working with you, Mr. Secret Agent Man.
And goes to hand him, so we find out at this point, I guess he's somebody, hands Combs an FBI badge. So this whole time, Combs has been in the FBI. We find this out as the movie ends. Joe Don Baker has known, and he's like, hey, man, if you ever want to work together again, come see me sometime. Bye. And then he walks off, and Combs and Dr. Lady go get in an all-white Corvette, matching their clothes, and they drive the fuck away, and that's the end of the movie. So that, my friends, was Felony. Some of the other David A. Pryor films are really fun and funny to watch. This is, I mean, this is definitely so bad it's good. It's also, if you're, I don't know, if you don't have tolerance for anything like that, it's also just going to be bad. It's definitely one of those straight to video. As I mentioned, it was a home video release. It feels like a home video release. This never would have gotten a theatrical release. It's so shitty. It's so bad. They either didn't have enough footage to make a competent movie, or they didn't care. I don't know what the hell happened here. I'd love to interview somebody at some point to get some more information on what the hell happened and what being on set for this movie was like. Because again, a lot of veteran character actors are in this. It must have been fun at some point, but it's so fucking bad. It's so bad. But, I mean, I haven't been this shocked watching a terrible action film in a long time at just how incompetent it all was. But that said, it was a real enjoyable watch. So, I mean, I would suggest watching it if you can get your hands on it. I think I saw it on Amazon Instant Video. It might be free, Prime, who the fuck knows. If you can find it, I think it's also free, living rent free on YouTube, by the way. So if you want to go and try to just Google full movie Felony, you'll probably find it, because I don't think anybody is chasing down the rights to this piece of shit anytime soon. I think anybody who is associated with it probably wants to have it forgotten. So that was Felony, guys. Sorry for it taking so long in getting a new episode up. Not like you all really watch it so crazily that you care. But, you know, sorry for it taking so long. Hopefully I'll get something up a little bit sooner. Pretty soon I'm going to be doing a podcast exclusive episode. So if you're into podcasts instead of the YouTube stuff, or if you're into both, feel free to please check that out. I want to do a few commentary tracks on there as well for some other movies that I've watched recently that I think kind of deserve that sort of treatment. So keep your eyes out for that. The podcast, by the way, is also Video Hell Show. Just Google Video Hell Show podcast or check for it on one of your favorite podcasting apps, except for Apple, because getting my Apple ID to work has been a real pain in my ass. Anyway, once again, everybody out there, thanks for watching, and have a happy and healthy 4th of July. Please don't blow your fucking hands, limbs, or anything off with fireworks. Be smart, be safe, and, you know, have a good one. Thanks for watching. Later.
Bobby?
Bobby?